Hello and welcome back to my true crime channel. Today I'm going to be doing a body language and statement analysis of family killer Chris Watts. Now I'm basing my video today for the body language and the statement analysis on a interview that Chris Watts gave to the media in America in August 2018 before he'd actually been arrested for the murder of his pregnant wife Shannan and his two little daughters Bella and Celeste. Now, straight off the back, when I watched this interview, I found Chris Watts extremely suspicious. I mean, obviously, we all know what he did now, but there are so many little ways that you can tell that the monster is lying just from certain words that he uses, words that aren't necessary, and certain body language things that he does give him away. So, the first thing that Chris is asked is what is his name? And he says, Chris Watts, Watts. Pretty certain he didn't need to spell Watts. I mean, I know how to spell it. It's probably quite an easy surname to spell. It's quite short, and he didn't need to spell it out. What that says to me is that he was trying to stall for time a little bit and just sort of spell his name just to give him a little bit of thinking time for the next question.
Chris Watts, Watts.
Now, the next question Chris is asked is what is going on in his house right now. And he says that there's a canine unit and they're trying to get a scent and that everybody's doing their best to try and find them. Everybody's trying to help and do their bit to find them. But at no point in this answer from Chris does he mention his wife's name, Shannan, or his daughter's names, Bella and Celeste. He refers to them all as them. I think that's distancing language, and the fact that he didn't use their name, if you didn't already know that Chris was a killer, it would clearly be a big red flag.
What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, it's got canine units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, and see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
Now, the first immediate bit of body language that stands out to me is that he's already swaying. All right, it's quite slow, but throughout this interview, it gets worse and it becomes more like that. Not only does he do it during this media interview, swaying. He does it during police interrogation, or not interrogation. He does it during a police meeting within the house when they're looking for Shannan's mobile phone, her purse and her handbag. He does it again then. I believe that it is a behaviour that Chris does to self-soothe, to make himself feel less stressed and less anxious. He sort of sways from side to side, and once he starts to do it, it obviously does start to soothe him, which is why he repeats it. It becomes a repetitive behaviour for him, and is clearly something that he does to self-soothe. Now, the next question the interviewer asks Chris is what happened? He says that she came home around 2 a.m. and that when he left the house, I think he says at around 5 or 5:30 a.m., she was still here. What, her dead body? Weird. Not really certain on that one. The fact that he says she and won't call her Shannan, her name, again, is another big red flag. It's very much distancing language. He doesn't want to use her name. He obviously doesn't love her anymore, or he wouldn't have done what he did. And because he's such a horrible, nasty piece of work, he won't use her name. He continually refers to her as she.
What happened? Your wife came home. Talk to me. Tell me what's.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10. And that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door.
Now, another thing that Chris says not long after the last question is that he tried to text Shannan, but he'd had no response, and that she hadn't, none of her people, I think he means her friends and her work colleagues, hadn't heard from her, and that was concerning to him. He then says that is what has really concerned a lot of people's, that she's not getting back to them. Has it not concerned you, Chris? You, her husband, has it not concerned you that she's not gone back to you? Clearly not, because you murdered her.
Like I had texted Shannan a few times that day, called her, say, but she never got back to me, but she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well. And that's what really concerned a lot of people, is like, she's not getting back to her. Like, she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like, she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home.
Another thing that Chris says shortly after the last question is he walks in the house and it's vanished. He's referring to his pregnant wife and his 2 daughters. It's vanished. Well, what's it's? Why can't you say Shannan, Bella and Celeste had all vanished? They were gone, not it's vanished. Again, distancing language, wanted to remove himself from them, from the situation, to try and convince the interviewer that he had no guilt or any knowledge of what had happened to them.
Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home. And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
The interviewer then asks Chris, "What's your wife's name?" He reluctantly replies, "Shannan." He then asks the children's names, to which he obviously replies, "Celeste and Bella." Now, why did the interviewer have to ask him in a missing persons case, which it was at this time, it wasn't known that it was a murder case, why did he have to ask him, the husband of the missing woman and children, what their names were? Why didn't he say at the start of the interview, "Hi, I'm Chris. This is about my wife, Shannan. She's pregnant. And my 2 daughters, Celeste and Bella. Where are they?" There's no urgency in his voice. You can tell he already knows they're dead, and that is why there's no urgency to find them.
I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shannan, Shannan.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are you?
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
So a couple of more red flags of body language that I'm noticing here in the early part of the interview. When Chris is trying to keep in information, obviously the fact that he'd murdered his wife, his pregnant wife and his 2 daughters, he often does that. Watch it back, and watch it back a lot, and keep your eye on Chris's mouth area. Watch that he does that. People that are lying, people that are denying, people that are trying to keep things in when being asked about something that they want to lie about or withhold information on, often purse their lips. It's quite an unconscious thing, but it's something that most humans do when they're trying to not let something out. They sort of do that in order to try and stop their mouth from opening, from letting all the stuff they don't want anyone to know flowing out.
Shannan.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are you?
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times.
Something else, along with the pursing of the lips and the swaying, is the blink rate. He blinks quite a lot. Now, under stress, humans are known to blink more. The blink rate of someone that is anxious or stressed, or especially someone that's trying to withhold information, withhold the truth, blink rate does tend to increase. So if you keep your eye on that, you should also know and notice that Chris and the amount that he blinks per minute is not normal.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are you?
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times.
One of the most disturbing pieces of language that Chris uses during this interview, and it makes my blood boil, and at the same time it gives me the creeps and it makes me go cold when I hear it, is that it was a very traumatic night for him the night before, sleeping in the house all by himself without his pregnant wife and his 2 daughters who he'd murdered. So perhaps if he hadn't murdered her, he wouldn't have had to have had such a traumatic night. How the hell do you think your pregnant wife Shannan and your 2 daughters felt? Do you think they were traumatized? Do you think your 2 little girls were traumatized to know that they knew you'd murdered their mother before you killed them? You horrible, sick and twisted monster.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now. Like that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door, just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. and it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
Now, before the interviewer continues asking questions, he tells Chris that the questions are about to get a lot more difficult, a lot more tough. And around the time that the man is mid-sentence, Chris clearly knows the questions are about to get harder. You can see quite clearly he does a swallow, dry mouth, stress, anxiousness causes the dry mouth, and his eyes widen as he realizes he's about to be quizzed about what has really happened.
I'm gonna ask some kind of tough questions about your relationship with your kids.
I mean, yeah, my kids are my life.
Now, before the guy can finish the question, Chris is doing the old pursed lips again, thinking, shit, I don't really want to let anything out here that I shouldn't do. One of the first things that Chris says in response to that question is that those girls were my life. Those girls. Not Celeste and Bella, my beautiful daughters. Not even just Celeste and Bella. Those girls. Yet again, distancing language. So, those girls were my life. Their smiles, they lit up my life. What a load of BS. Chris Watts is so full of shit, isn't he? They didn't light up his life, or he wouldn't have murdered him, would he?
The kids.
I mean, yeah, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And it's like, I mean, last night, like during like when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I miss them.
He then continues to say that he misses them and that he didn't get to tell them last night that they couldn't eat their dessert because they were being naughty. Don't mean to be rude. They've only been gone missing a day. Now, I'm not saying a normal father wouldn't miss his daughters, but they've only been missing for one day. Most people don't miss people after one day. So again, here, Chris isn't really quite sure what to say, because personally I think he's a psychopath and he doesn't feel normal emotion. He has to copy other people's. He's trying to convince the interviewer here how much he misses his poor little daughters, when really he doesn't miss them at all. He doesn't feel emotion. If he felt emotion, he wouldn't have killed them, would he?
And it's like, I mean, last night, like during like when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I miss them. Like, I mean, I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that, or you're not gonna get your dessert. And just like you're not gonna get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them. Cuddle up on their couches.
He then starts storytelling and talking a load about rubbish that's not relevant to what's going on. He starts saying what sort of sofas the daughters sleep on or relax on. And he even starts mentioning TV programs that they like. Well, they're missing, for God's sake. The public don't need to know what TV programs they like. Again, he's trying to convince the interviewer of his innocence, that he loves his daughters so very much and he remembers all their TV programs and what sofa they like to sit on in their bedroom. All a load of old rubbish. And again, giving himself more time to think about the next question, storytelling, and in his mind, trying to convince the interviewer that he's innocent.
It's like you're not gonna get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them. Cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just like, I was, it was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night.
One of the next things that are said by Chris is he just wants everybody to come home. He just wants them all to come home. Everybody. Why not use their names? It would be so much more powerful if they really were missing and he hadn't murdered them. If he'd said, I really want Shannan, Bella and Celeste, my beautiful family, to come home. But there's no emotion. He also tries to fake cry at this point, and it's the most rubbish fake cry I've ever seen. His crocodile tears are so bloody fake.
That last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on. No, I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. It was, that's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it.
Now, at the next part of the interview, the cameraman has moved back and the angle that they're filming on has changed, and Chris is further back in the shot, which gives you better look at him, his body, and gives you more of a chance to assess his body language. Now, the swaying is still happening, but not only that, you then immediately notice the crossed arms and the really tense body language, keeping everything in. He doesn't want to let anything out. So it's clear from the body language there, again, that he's still stressed and very anxious, and that he's trying his damned best to keep it all in and to keep it all together.
So you're supposed to get home like 11. She got home at like 1:48. Got in bed about 2.
What was she going for? Like family trip or what?
It was a Thrive direct sales. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders in the company.
Now, something that I find extremely disturbing is that Chris says he goes off to work at around 5:15 on the morning that Shannan comes home. She's meant to have come home at, I think, approximately 1:48 in the morning. He claims he goes off to work 5:15, and that Shannan has barely got in the bed when he left. Well, did she even ever get in the bed? Did you kill her as soon as she got in the door? We don't really know. He claims that they'd had sex and then he killed her, so perhaps she was in the bed, but did he really mean, and this is my opinion, she'd barely got in the bed by the time he left? She'd barely got in the bed when he killed her. How disturbing and chilling.
And then that day she was back. I mean,
I left work early that morning, like 5:15, 5:30. So like she barely got into bed pretty much.
Chris is then asked, again, it's going to be a difficult question for him, the interviewer says, but did you have an argument? He skirts around the issue. He doesn't really want to give a full answer, but he says that they had an emotional conversation, but that he wants to leave it at that and not go any more into it. He then starts to try and gain sympathy from the interviewer by saying, I just want them back, you know. What he's basically thinking and saying is, forget the argument that we had. Don't think about that argument. Don't worry about that. I just want them back. I can't say their names, but I really want them back. Really?
and this might be a tough question, but did you guys get into an argument before she left?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back.
One of the next shocking statements that comes out of Chris Watts' mouth is, if they're not safe, that's what's tearing him apart. He just needs to know that they're safe. Well, clearly they're not safe. They're dead. 2 of them are dead in a water tank, your daughters, and you've buried in a shallow grave your pregnant wife. So clearly they're not coming back. Clearly they're not safe. One of the next things he says is, if they're safe, they're going to be coming back. But if they're not safe, then they're not going to be coming back. Well, you know they're not safe. You know they're not coming back. Unless they're going to suddenly, remarkably come back to life again, you know they're not coming back. Why you felt the need to say that, I don't know. But your reasoning in your brain to try and convince someone of your innocence is clearly not on par, not on level.
I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
Now, something to note here that's very obvious during this video is that Chris Watts has marks all over his neck. They're all on the left-hand side here of his neck, in a sort of area here. And I personally believe that one of the children, Bella or Celeste or Shannan, scratched his neck when he was killing them in order to try and fight him off and defend themselves. And how awful to clearly see the marks on his neck. From what I can gather, I think he tried to claim when asked, I don't know by whom, but by someone, that a wasp had stung him. Yeah, well, a lot of bollocks.
With the police or the sheriffs or your neighbors, is anybody, what's police saying to you?
Right now, this is what they're doing right now is with the canine in the sense. I think this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing they've done so far, because yesterday Frederick Police Department did all the searching of the house and tried to gather whatever information they could.
End of this part, he's asked, if you could speak to your wife, what would you tell her? Now, he does mention her name here, but only because I feel he feels that he has to. He says, Shannan, if you're out there, please come home. And Bella and Celeste. And if anyone's got them, please give them back. Something along them lines. So while saying all that, it's trying to convince the interviewer that they've been abducted, that he has no knowledge of it, he had nothing to do with it, and that if they're out there, please come home. Well, if you didn't kill them and you have no guilty knowledge of their murders, they are out there somewhere. And normal human emotion would mean that you'd pray and hope in your brain that they were still alive. And most people that have missing people in their families, or they have missing friends, always cling on to the hope that one day they'll be found alive. They don't tend to just accept that they're dead or that they're gone. So that's real weird and a big red flag.
And my last question, if you have any, though, just feel free to step in. The last question is, if your wife can see this, if she can watch this, what would you like to tell your wife and kids?
Shannan, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
So one of the next things Killer Chris Watts says is that he has no inclination of where they're at. Another load of old crap. He obviously does have some inclination as to where they're at because he got rid of their bodies not long before the interview was given. So again, more lies. The lies just keep flowing out of Chris Watts. He then goes on to say that every friend that I know and every friend that Shannan has been contacted, and it's the emphasis of every friend that I have and every friend of Shannan's. So emphasizing on every to make it sound to the interviewer that everybody that possibly could be contacted that knows Shannan has been, and that they're all looking for her, just to emphasize that he's done as much as he can to help look for Shannan and the girls. Again, more lies.
I want them wherever they're at. Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. Like, I've exhausted like every friend that I know of, and every friend that I have has called friends that Shannan has that maybe I didn't know about, and it's just like it's vanished.
And the next statement that Chris gives that I'm going to analyse, to me, is probably the most disturbing thing that he says throughout the whole interview. He says, and I want to make sure I get it right, so I have it written here. When I got home, it was like a ghost town. She wasn't here. The kids weren't here. I have no idea, where they went. So, where to start? I think when he says, when I got home, it was like a ghost town, I think that's like an embedded confession. He knows they're ghosts now. Perhaps he believes in ghosts. I certainly do. I don't know about you. I know not everybody does. But it was a ghost town when he got home. Hopefully their ghosts were haunting him, really torturing him. I bloody hope so. So yeah, it was a ghost town when he got home. She wasn't here. Not Shannan wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Not my kids or our kids weren't here, or Celeste and Bella weren't here. Just the kids weren't here.
It's vanished. Like, she's not. Like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went.
So she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Distancing language again. No use of Shannan's name. No use of Bella and Celeste's name, not saying my kids or our kids, not taking any ownership of the kids, distancing himself away from the three of them because clearly he didn't care about them. Shocking. So the next statements that Chris makes that I'm going to analyse are ultimately just as shocking as most of the rest, but if not, some of the most shocking ones that he makes. So I want to get them right. As if the ghost town comment wasn't bad enough. So he then says, it's just earth-shattering. Not it's earth-shattering, it's just earth-shattering. Not really any need for just. That is a filler word to me, and that's trying to put an emphasize again on the sentence. It's not earth-shattering to him at all. He knew what he was doing, excuse me. He knew what he was doing when he killed his wife, so it's not earth-shattering. That's a load of crap.
She wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went, and it's just earth-shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
So he follows on from when he says it's just earth-shattering with, I don't feel like this is real right now. It's like a nightmare that I can't wake up from. So he doesn't feel like it's real, that he murdered his wife and his two daughters and his unborn baby son. And it's like a nightmare that he can't wake up from. Well, hopefully the night before he had the most horrific nightmares he's ever had in his life. And I hope that he continues to have horrific nightmares and night terrors and night sweats and all the horrible things that happen at night to poor people with sort of sleep disorders. I hope that's happening to Killer Chris Watts for the rest of his life. He deserves that. He really does. Chris is then asked when he first realises that they're gone, his family are gone. And he says that he texted Shannan a few times and he didn't get a response, which was a bit off. Really? She's dead. You killed her. She's clearly not going to respond to text messages unless suddenly dead people can use mobile phones. Pretty sure they can't. So that is just awful. What an awful thing to say. He really does make me sick. Ugh.
Chris, when did you learn that they weren't here?
I guess, well, I texted her a few times, called her, I didn't get a response, which that was a little off. And then her friend Nicole showed up about a little afternoon. I see it on the doorbell camera. And I was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I can't get a hold of Shannan. And that's when I was just like, all right, something's not right. If she's not answering the door, she said the car was here. It's like, I gotta go home.
So just to go back to that last point when I said that Chris had said that Shannan hadn't got back to him when he texted her and that it was a bit off. It's sort of blaming Shannan for not getting back to him. You know, it was a bit off of her to not get back to me. You know, I wouldn't have minded, you know, if she'd gone back to her friends and not gotten back to me, but she hadn't even got back to her people with all the stuff that he'd said before. What a load of our rubbish. Like, to have a go at Shannan and say that it was a bit off that she hadn't replied to your text is bang out of order. The woman was dead. Clearly she couldn't reply to your text. Psycho. One of the next things that Chris says is that Bella was supposed to start kindergarten next Monday. Now, the one word within that sentence that you need to pay attention to is the was. Past tense, not present tense. He didn't say she is going to start kindergarten next week. It's she was, because he knows she's never going to start school because she's dead, because he killed her. Not only that, I'm pretty certain that not long after the murders, before he's arrested and he's admitted to them, he actually calls the school to say that they're moving and that the kids won't be starting, to try and stop any trail from the school coming to try and find the girls when they don't turn up for the school. So, again, more lies from family killer Chris Watts.
The car was here. It's like, I gotta go home. And we got here, got inside, and nobody was here. Nothing.
And so I read that Shannan hadn't taken girls to school when she was in Israel.
Yeah, because like Bella was gonna start kindergarten next Monday, and they were just getting ready to start back again.
So on the body language side of things, his blink rate increases even more so because the questions are getting more difficult. He's blinking all the time, which is extremely obvious. He's gulping a lot, like that. His mouth is clearly dry because he's stressed. He's got a frozen eye quite a lot with the interviewer, really intently looking at them, you know, really wanting to get across that he doesn't know anything and that he's really trying to find his wife and his 2 children, trying to sort of get on the side of the interviewer, get the interviewer on his side, win them over, gain their trust, and hopefully result in them feeling that he's truly innocent and had no part to play in their disappearance. Another thing that he says shortly after the last thing is that he rushed home from work when he heard from Shannan's friend that she was missing, that she hadn't gone to a doctor's appointment, that she couldn't be getting hold of, that the friend was at the house and there was no answer. He said he drove through flashlights, which I think in the UK means traffic lights, as far as I know. And when he says that he drove really fast and he went through red lights or flashlights, he's shaking his head. So personally, I don't think he drove home fast at all. If you did drive through flashlights, you'd be nodding. I drove through flashlights. I was trying to get home as quick as I could. Not, I drove through flashlights. So I detect deception there. I detect that he's lying. We all know he's a liar anyway, but he definitely didn't rush home. Why the hell would he rush home? He knows they're all dead. He killed them. He knows the police are going to be there soon. Ultimately, he knows he's about to get busted. Clearly wasn't going to rush home. So, more lies.
Chris, you've got a beautiful family, you know, and it looks like you all love each other very much. What went through your mind the minute kind of you're like, something's wrong?
Like I was trying to get home as fast as I can. I was blowing through stoplights. I was blowing through everything, just trying to get home as fast as I can because none of this made sense. Like, if she wasn't here, like, where did she go? Like, once I got here, it was like, all right, who can I call? Who do I know that she could be with right now? If she went to a friend's house, where could she be staying?
Now back to the body language side of things again. I noticed that Chris uses his hands a lot when trying to emphasize things, pointing and, you know, trying to story tell. Personally, I'm not sure whether Chris Watts is someone that uses his hands fully. I'm sure he does a little bit, but these actions and motions with his hands all feel a bit forced in my opinion. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, I feel he's trying to win over the interviewer, get his point across, which sometimes can be done more when you visually use your hands to get your point across in a conversation.
And so what kind of, so your friend Nicole kind of tipped you off at something?
Yeah, because like she was here at the front door, and that's when I kind of knew, okay, like if she's not answering anybody else either, this isn't like her. Because I mean, she works at direct sales business, and that's what she does. And for her not to respond to any of her people, that, I mean, if she doesn't respond to me, that's fine. I mean, like, she's busy, she's got stuff going on, but not to respond to her people, though, that was not like her.
Now we hear yet more distancing language from family killer Chris Watts. He says, I want her back so bad. I want those girls back so bad. Again, not using the name Shannan, Bella and Celeste, or some people would say my girls, my beautiful girls, my children, my family. There's no passion, there's no care, there's no empathy that they're gone, and all of his emotions are so fake, it's a joke.
Where did she go? Like, once I got here, it was like, all right, who can I call? Who do I know that she could be with right now? If she went to a friend's house, where could she be staying? And we went through everybody. I mean, just everything in my contact list and her friend's contact list, and nothing has come up. Everybody has said like they haven't heard from her either. I'm just hoping right now that she's somewhere safe, and maybe she's there. But right now it's just like, if she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
More statements to analyse here from Chris, and again, more shocking statements. He's asked by the interviewer, you're afraid that people may think you've done something, insinuating that you've had something to do with this. Now, instantly, you can see Chris is immediately stressed by the question. He gulps quite noticeably. He stutters over the first words that he responds with. His lips are pursed again, and noticeably, as always, side to side swaying. So, I've got his response, and I want to make sure I get it right here. He says, yeah, I mean, nothing. Everybody is going to have their own opinion on, stutters again, on anything like this. I just want them people to know that. I want my family back. I want them safe.
You know, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the hard part. Your first thought is, where are they? I want them back. Your second thought is, you know, your friends were talking about something you kind of heard from your little phone. You're also, your second thought is that you're afraid people think you may have done something.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's gonna have their own opinion on anything like this. I just want people to know that I want my family back. Like, I want them safe, and I want them here. Like, this house is not the same.
And I want them here. This house is not the same. Now, let's have a quick look back through that, because there's a lot to analyse here. So, all the shrugging, the shoulders sort of being shrugged, you know, not really bothered about this whole situation. The gulps, dry mouth, anxious, stressed, stuttering, because he's not sure what to say and he doesn't want to give away the truth. The pursed lips, trying to keep it in because he knows he's got things to hide. Really, really weird. So starting off with, yeah, I mean, nothing. Doesn't flow, doesn't really make much sense, because then it goes, yeah, I mean, nothing. Everybody's going to have their own opinion on this, on anything like this. So the yeah, I mean, nothing, just a load of bullshit coming out of his mouth so he can think what to say. Everybody's going to have their own opinion on this, on anything like this. So he's trying to get across that people are going to have their own opinion on this, but anything like this, which distances it, any other story like this in the news, they're going to have an opinion on. So who cares if they have an opinion on my family story? Distancing himself again. And then trying to win over the interviewer and the public that he cares about his wife and his children by saying, I just want them people to know that I want my family back. I want them safe. And I want them here. Like, this house is not the same. So going back, I just want, no need to say that. I just want them people. I just want everybody, or I just want everyone to know, not I just want them people. That doesn't sound good, does it? It doesn't flow well. He's clearly having to think what he says because he knows he's hiding something. To know that I want my family back. I want them safe. And I want them here. Like, this house is not the same. Now, I know that Americans use the word like within sentences a lot more than us Brits do. We do say it, but you guys definitely say it a lot more, depending on where in America you're from. I think a lot of Californians say it a lot more than we do. The use of like at the end there with and I want them here, like this house is not the same. There's no need to use the word like. Just this house isn't the same. Not like. There's no need. It sort of shows deception. I mean, we all know he's lying anyway, but it definitely shows deception, and it's trying to convince. All of this is storytelling, trying to convince that he's innocent. And what's really, really the biggest red flag here is the start bit. Yeah, or yeah, I mean, nothing. Everybody is going to have their own opinion on this, on anything like this. Not, he's asked, you're afraid people think that you've done something. You'd say, I haven't done anything. I'm innocent. I don't know where my wife Shannan and my 2 daughters Bella and Celeste are. I don't know where they are. I have nothing to do with this. I'm innocent. Not, me, nothing. Everybody's going to have their own opinion on this, on anything like this. No one that's innocent, that hasn't killed their wife or knows where their wife is, has some sort of guilty knowledge, would respond to a question like that, whether asked by police, whether asked by the media. It's a real red flag. And to me, I wonder if the interviewer thought at this point, goodness me, could Chris Watts be lying here? And could he actually know where his wife is? And has he got something to do with the disappearance of his wife and his 2 little daughters? Because that one sentence alone shows me that he couldn't just answer the question truthfully by going, I don't know anything about it. I have nothing to do with it. I played no part in it. Doesn't say anything like that, just that everyone's going to have their own opinion, and, you know, things like this happen all the time is kind of what he's saying, and it's really quite disturbing.
You know, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the hard part. Your first thought is, where are they walking back? Your second thought is, you know, your friends were talking about some kind of work from your little phone. You're also, your second thought is that you're afraid people think you may have done something.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's gonna have their own opinion on anything like this. I just want people to know that I want my family back. Like, I want them safe, and I want them here. Like, this house is not the same.
One of the next statements, killer Chris Watts is clearly seeking sympathy. He says that last night was traumatic. He can't stay in the house with no one in it. Traumatic? Why was it traumatic? Because you lied and thought about what you'd done to your wife and your daughters. How traumatic do you think it was for all of them being murdered by you? Really? So he's trying to gain sympathy from the interviewer and the public in general by claiming that it was really traumatic for him to stay there by himself and, oh, poor me and diddums. Again, just ultimate bollocks flowing out of Chris Watts' mouth, as per usual, but trying his best and his real hardest to convince the interviewer and the general public that he's really missing his family and that the night before was traumatic. Well, the night before was probably traumatic because it's likely the night before was the night of the murders. So, yeah, that's why it was traumatic. Hey, Chris.
I want them here. Like, this house is not the same. I mean, last night was traumatic. Last night was, I can't really stay in this house again, like, with nobody here.
Another disturbing thing that Chris says is when he's asked what the worst part about all of this is the not knowing. The not knowing where his pregnant wife Shannan and Bella and Celeste are, but really he does know where they are because he's disposed of their bodies not long before he's given the media interview. So again, more lies coming from Chris, more sympathy seeking, trying to get the interviewer on side and ultimately make him feel sorry for him, which, considering what he'd done, is so goddamn disturbing.
What's the hardest part about this?
Not knowing, like, if they're safe or if they're in trouble.
Chris is also asked where he's going to be staying, and he mentions the name of a couple of his friends and says that he's going to be staying with them. Obviously, because it was so traumatic staying in the night before at the house on his own the night before, he's going to be staying with some friends, and he says that he'll be staying with them unless anything sudden, note the word sudden, happens in the next couple or few hours. Now, if you were waiting for news of your missing wife and your missing children, you wouldn't really want anything to happen sudden, because sudden denotes a problem, sudden denotes something bad. What you would say is, unless there's any news or anything comes to light or the police have got any new leads, you try and make it sound positive. If you wanted your wife to come home, you didn't have any guilty knowledge of her murder and you hadn't murdered her and you genuinely loved her, you'd use positive words. words like I've just mentioned, not what he says. So, yet again, he's trying to convince the interviewer that he gave a damn about Shannan and the girls, but really we all know he didn't, or he wouldn't have done what he did, would he?
But that didn't happen.
Who are you going to stay with tonight?
Probably my friends Nick and Amanda. Just, I mean, unless something develops in the next hours or so, like, I'm hoping that somebody sees something or somebody knows something and comes forward.
Something else he says is it's that variable of not being able to do anything from where I'm at. Now, the word variable is not something that most people that have missing family members would use. And it's kind of saying, from where I'm at, I can't do a lot. You know, I've rung all her friends and her family are looking for her now. So as I know she's dead, I just won't bother. That's what he's thinking. But the use of the word variable is quite an odd word. It's not one that you'd expect to hear from someone that's wondering where their wife is, that cares about their wife. It's a strange word to use. And again, if I didn't already know that Chris had killed his wife, this would be a major red flag to me.
What's the hardest part about this?
Not knowing, like, if they're safe or if they're in trouble. Like, there's just that variable, like, I'm not sure, I mean, I can't do anything right now from where I'm at. Like, I'm not sure if they're safe somewhere, just huddled up somewhere, or if they're in trouble. And knowing that if they could be in trouble, it's earth-shattering right now, and it doesn't feel like it's real.
Chris is then asked about how Shannan could have left the house because he's aware that they've got a doorbell camera and that the neighbour has a camera, and surely it would have caught her on the camera, one of the cameras, had she left the house of her own accord. He clearly doesn't want to answer the question. What's new?
The weird part of all this, it sounds like everything's kind of locked up. There's no signs of them leaving the house.
No, like, we have camera there, neighbor has a camera. I mean, everything's checked out.
He then says he doesn't want to put anything out there, and suspecting that someone could have driven up to the back. Doesn't want to put anything out there. If your wife was missing and you cared about her and you loved her and you cared about your missing daughters and you love them, you'd want to put a lot out there. You'd want to put a lot out there. You'd be begging for them to come home. You'd be begging if someone had took them for them to bring them back safely. You'd be offering money. You'd be begging. You'd be bribing. You'd be doing everything. At this point, you should have gone into fight or flight. You should be in shock. I know they're not dead. Well, they are, because you know they are, but you're pretending to not know that they're dead or of any involvement in their disappearance, but you should still be upset, and he can't fake that because he's not upset. So he's really having a hard time here trying to convince the interviewer of his innocence, because he isn't innocent and he's full of bullshit and he just can't seem to do it. And he does a really poor job towards the end of the interview in trying to get sympathy out of the interviewer, because I think by this point, potentially, in my opinion, the interviewer has sussed that he has some sort of involvement here.
There's no signs of them leaving the house.
No, like, we have camera there, neighbor has a camera. I mean, everything's checked out.
You have a camera there?
The doorbell, only right there. The neighbor has one over there.
Were all the doors around the house locked?
Front door was locked. The garage door was unlocked, but that's normal for, like, when she comes in the house, she leaves it unlocked just so she can come in and out, just in case, you know, to get in the garage door, but the back sliding door was locked as well.
So how would she have left the house if she did leave the house?
I don't want to put anything out there, like, just suspecting, like, if something, like, somebody pulled in the back, and because we have a driveway back there from the new townhomes, but it's so hard to tell. Like, there's no cameras in the backyard or anything like that, so it's really hard to even suspect anything right now as far as how she could have left, or if someone came picked her up, or if someone took her.
One bit of information that he does decide to give, though, is he says that there are no cameras in the back garden or the backyard. So in other words, if she'd left that way, or if someone had abducted her or took her out that way, it wouldn't have been filmed, and therefore no one would have any footage or evidence of it happening in that way. Now, the fact that he felt the need to mention that, in my opinion, means that he wanted to put it out there as a theory to the general public and to the interviewer that Shannan could have left of her own accord out the back, or that she could have been taken against her will out the back, and that if that did happen, there would be no evidence of it because there are no cameras. Now, it's strange that he said that, but we all know why, because he wants to convince everybody that that's what did happen and that he can't have had anything to do with it and that he didn't possibly bring her body out of the front of the house and put it in his truck. He clearly doesn't want them to know that, does he? He is then asked, you know, what he thinks of it all. He's got a canine and he's got the canine team there, dogs there, and arms folded, you know, very much rigid and keeping it all in. He says he's never seen anything like it in his life, only in the movies. Really? Well, you caused all this. They wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you and your psychopathic ways. You know, hello? Really?
Suspecting like if something like somebody pulled in the back, and because we have a driveway back there from the new townhomes, but it's so hard to tell. Like there's no cameras in the backyard or anything like that, so it's really hard to even suspect anything right now as far as how she could have left, or if someone came picked her up, or if somebody took her.
Meanwhile, today's reality, you've got cops there, cops here, cops in your house, canine units.
I've never seen something like this in my lifetime unless it was on TV or a movie, and this doesn't seem real at all.
Another shocking statement coming up here, and again, probably one of the top 5 throughout this, you know, I think it's about a 20-minute interview. He says, I'm living in a nightmare and I can't get out of it. Really? You put yourself in that nightmare, Chris Watts. That's why you're living in the nightmare and you can't get out of it. And something else he also says, and this is something that I want to mention. I saw her when she got in, as in Shannan, not using her name yet again. But it was really quick. As in seeing her was really quick. He saw her really quick before he went off to work. Now, I think that could be another embedded confession here. I saw her when she got in, but it was really quick. And he tries to sort of convince that the reason it was really quick was because he went off to work at around 5:15, 5:30. Says Shannan comes home at 1:48. Now, he didn't say that he was tired or in bed when she came home at 1:48. So why was it really quick? What was really quick? Well, personally, I think it's an embedded confession. And killing her was really quick. Not seeing her and saying hello. The act of killing her was really quick. There's a nugget of truth within that statement. The rest of it's rubbish, but it's actually an embedded confession, and it's really disturbing and chilling to hear it.
This doesn't seem real at all. It just seems like I'm living in a nightmare, and I can't get out of it. I just want them home so bad.
Did you see your kids and your wife whenever, or you had the kids, I forgot.
Yeah, I had the kids over the weekend.
Did you see your wife when she got home?
No, she got home really late, about 2 a.m. from the airport when she got back from Arizona.
Did you wake up and say, you know?
No, yeah, I saw her when she got in, but it was really quick, just because it was 2 a.m. in the morning. But I saw the kids in the monitor before I left, and that was it.
Now, some more disturbing statements of Chris to analyse, and I want to make sure I get this right, so bear with me. He's asked to describe his little girls. So, describe your little girls to us. He says, there's Celeste. She's just a ball of energy. She's called her Rampage. Not she's called, or we call her Rampage. She's called her Rampage. Doesn't flow very well. Because she's like just always, she's got 2 speeds. Go or she's sleeping. And she's always the troublemaker. She's always the one jumping off. Just yelling at you. And all kinds of things like that. Now, the first time I ever heard this interview, I remember thinking, wow, what a weird way to talk about your missing daughter. You know, if you loved your daughter, you wouldn't be saying that she's, you know, always jumping off things, always shouting and yelling at you, always getting into kinds of trouble. And, you know, in other words, she's a pain in my arse is what you're saying. And then listen to hear what he says about the other daughter. And Bella. Oh, and just to go back to that, when he talks about Celeste, you can hear contempt in his voice. He's not very happy to be asked it. But then when he then speaks about Bella, which he chooses to do, but he has been asked, his voice softens and verbally he sounds more relaxed, which to me means he preferred Bella to Celeste. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. So then when he talks about Bella, and Bella, she's the more calm, cautious, mothering type. She's more like me. She's more calm. He doesn't pronounce the word calm correctly. He struggles to pronounce the word calm because clearly Chris Watts isn't calm. He's anything but calm. He's a murdering, savage monster. So he's not calm. So he's trying to convince the interviewer that he's calm and that his daughter Bella was just like him, calm. But he struggles to get the word calm out because he's not calm. So that's really weird. So let me just read that again. And Bella, she's the more calm, cautious, mothering type. She's more like me. She's more calm. She, Celeste, has got her mum's personality, or sorry, mum's, can't really say it the American way, her mum's personality, where she's always like just gun-ho, ready to go. Sorry, I find this so disturbing. So in other words, one of your daughter is gung-ho, she's always got 2 speed, she's always running around, you call her rampage, she's always jumping off stuff and yelling at you, nothing positive there. And then when you talk about your other daughter, she's more calm and cautious and mothering, and you compare it to yourself. So the daughter that's more like Shannan, Celeste, you clearly, or Cece, you clearly didn't care that much for, did you? But your daughter Bella, I do think you cared about a bit more, but probably only because she was more like you and you could see yourself in her. So going back to some of these words, because it's not just the disturbing nature of the fact that he's slagging off one of his missing daughters, in my opinion, saying bad things about her that are completely not needed. And anybody that's innocent that has a missing child would talk about them in a loving way. You know, I really miss, if they'd been gone a few weeks, I really miss hearing her singing in the bedroom, or I don't know, I really miss her asking me if I've done her dirty washing, or just little things about your children that you'd miss. You know, I really miss her giggle or her laugh. None of that. So there's that. But then again, we all know what he did, so he's not really going to miss him, is he? So going back to this, it's the way that the language flows is all bad and wrong. So there's Celeste. She is just a ball of energy. She's call her rampage. Not we call her rampage, or the family call her rampage. I call her rampage. We or she call her rampage. So you don't want to say we generically as the family, as in you and Shannan call her it, because you're not a family anymore. So you had to think about that, didn't you? You couldn't quite say that. So she's call her rampage. So there's a word missing there. That's really weird. He's can't keep up with the lies and his brain isn't working quick enough. That's why this language is so skewed. So there's Celeste. She is just a ball of energy. She's call her rampage because she's like just always, she's got 2 speeds. Or she's sleeping, and she's always the troublemaker. So just to go back to this bit, she's call her rampage, doesn't flow well, because she like just always, that doesn't make sense either. She's got 2 speeds, or she's sleeping, and she's always the troublemaker. She's always the one jumping off things and just yelling at you. So none of it flows very well. If you were speaking properly, I mean, this is probably truthful to a degree, that he didn't really care about his daughter and she was annoying and he generally found her a pain in his ass. But if he wasn't trying to hide something, the fact that he killed the daughter, or all of them, both daughters and Shannan, this would all flow a lot easier. If it was all truth and if he wasn't trying to hide something, there wouldn't be so many missing words. It would sound better, it would read better, and it wouldn't be full of lies, let's face it.
Describe your little girls to us, and you know.
There's Celeste. She's just a ball of energy. She's call her rampage because she's just always. She's got 2 speeds, go or she's sleeping, and she's always a troublemaker. She's always the one like jumping off things, you know, just yelling at you and all kinds of things. And Bella, she's the more calm, cautious, mothering type, and she's more like me. She's more calm. Celeste has definitely got her mom's personality where she's always just gung-ho, ready to go.
Now, the final statement of this interview that I want to analyse of Chris's, he's asked, you had a 3rd baby on the way, in a positive kind of way by the interviewer, you know, expecting, I imagine, Chris to go, yeah, we're about to have a baby boy. I can't wait to be a father again. I'm going to have a son. It's great. My daughters are going to have a brother. Nothing positive. So let me read you and make sure I get it right, what is said. So, you're going to have a 3rd baby. I hear you've got a 3rd baby on the way. So it said twice, I hear you're having a 3rd child, or you've got a 3rd baby on the way. To the first one, He's then asked again, So the interviewer has to press him and ask again, because he clearly doesn't want to answer it, just giving it a Yeah, we've got a baby on the way, yeah, If someone's excited about their baby, I very much doubt most people in the world go, when they're asked that. They go, yeah, I'm having a baby boy. He's due in 6 months. We've called him Nico. Nothing. Cold as a cucumber. So, said twice. It's like, that's why I need everybody back here, safe. Sorry, what? What's that got to do with your baby? He just asked if you're having a third baby. Why do you need everybody back here safe? Well, we know why, because you're trying to convince everyone you had nothing to do with their disappearances and subsequent murders. But the fact that he can't answer the question about the third baby, to me, means he did not want that third child. He had no feelings for the third child, or he wouldn't have killed Shannan whilst pregnant with Nico. He had contempt. You can see there's anger there. There's no emotion. It's zero emotion for baby Nico. He clearly had no feelings for the poor little unborn baby Nico, his unborn son. And the fact that he completely avoids answering the question is so disturbing. And surely, I imagine, the interviewers must have thought, God, this bloke's dodgy. It was the last question that was asked. The interview was then wrapped up. But the fact that he wouldn't even talk about his baby son, for me, was extremely upsetting to see and listen to. And it must have been really horrible for the people that interviewed him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what your mind right now too?
That's why I want everybody back. That's why I need everybody back here, and everybody's safe.
So, as always, looking back into this case is extremely upsetting. I don't ever want to forget that Shannan, Nico, Bella and Celeste were murdered. It's extremely horrifying and awful. Even 2.5 years down the line, it still upsets me to think what happened to them. So my thoughts go out to them and to Shannan's family and friends. But as always, guys, I want to know your thoughts on this. Do you see deception from Chris? I appreciate we all know that he's a killer and that he was lying during these interviews, but his body language and his statements are so interesting to analyse because you can detect deception a mile off. He stinks at lying. He stinks at trying to convince people of his innocence, or that he's a kind man, or that he's a calm man. He can't even say the word calm properly, so he's clearly not a calm man. But I'd love to know your views, whether they're the same as mine or not, whether you could sense the lies ahead of knowing that he'd killed his family. Do you find the body language and statements interesting, as I do, to sort of analyse and spot where he's lying, spot the little ticks that he has, the swaying and the constant blinking and the pursing of the lips? There's so many interesting things there. A couple of times he does sort of go to touch his neck, and from what I can gather, people that are liars and people that withhold truth often in times of stress touch their neck. So there's so many interesting things to watch from this interview. I really hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on it. So I hope you're all keeping well, guys. I hope you're all enjoying my channel. I'm really enjoying doing all these videos, so thank you so much for watching them. Thank you so much for commenting. I'm really enjoying hearing all of your different thoughts and opinions, so please keep commenting down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'll be back very soon with another true crime video. Bye for now, guys.